rated T to M. Hey, want to hear a PC Game Pass ad? I'll take your silence as a yes. Want new games on day one like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or Stalker 2? I thought so. How about unlocking all the League of Legends champions when you link your Riot Games account? All for one low monthly price? Well, guess what? We got you. Learn more at xbox.com/PC Game Pass or click the banner. Stalker 2 available November 20th, 2024. Game catalog varies by region and over time. And that's the end of the script.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 8779-737-425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you. As always, text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, and you can get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, all the social media links, everything you need. I got a buddy of mine. We've worked together in the past, known each other for a long time. He is gay, and he and his partner have lived together probably 10 years now, and they will not get married. And I've always found it very funny, and I've needled him and said, you know, John, you can get married now. In fact, he's listening to the show. I know, because I got a text from him in the last segment. Is this where you're going to talk about me now? It's always about you. They will not get married. So how long have they been? They've been together for quite a while, and they won't get married. And he says, "Do you know what it would do to our taxes if we were to get married?" Yeah. Yeah, we still penalize taxes in this. People get married in this country. It's kind of wildly remarkable that for a country that is all about marriage and, well, we allegedly people having kids and the like. I gotta say that it's oh gosh. Sorry, so I've got the story open, and there's a video of a man who's trying to swim to get out of a lake, and a crocodile has gotten a hold of him. Wow. He beat him off. Goodness gracious. Wild. Sorry, I am totally distracted because I got up this New York Post story that I want to get to, and their lead story is actually dude who is like chased by a crocodile. He's swimming, trying to get out of water that he wasn't supposed to be on, and the croc grabs hold of him, but he's able to, believe it or not, kick the thing in its eyes. And oh, okay. Anyway, so as I was saying, my friend won't get, this is a heck of a way to start. I promise I'm a professional, ladies and gentlemen, but if you saw the video I saw, you'd be distracted too. So let's restart. My longtime friend who is gay will not get married because of the tax consequences of marriage. Says not going to do it. He would actually pay more in income taxes. This country still has a marriage penalty. It's appalling. So I understand it. The other issue here is that the guy my friend is in a relationship with, if they were married, it could potentially cause some problems for work with conflicts of interest. And they're very careful about it, and they've gotten to the point now where his partner, they treat themselves as all but married. They've got wills, and they've got healthcare powers of attorney, and they've nominated each other for care and all that stuff. And so his friend does now have to, for his job is in the government, and he has to disclose what my buddy does for a living, and they've got some shared business interests and stuff like that. So they treat it as if it's a marriage, but they won't get married because of the marriage penalty. They both file separate income taxes. Now, I bring that up because that's a common situation in this country still. The gay rights movement wanted marriage. Andrew Sullivan, I've been on his podcast a number of times. He's a philosopher, pundit, thinker, writer, brilliant guy. And he was one of the people who believed that if he's gay, that if gay couples could get married, it would in some ways normalize, civilize something or other. And instead, that the queer rights movement, as he refers to it, has taken it, twisted it, and it hasn't gone exactly the way he thought it would. And he's very hostile to the aggressive transing of kids and things like that. I bring all this up because I do believe Tammy Baldwin, if she were not a lesbian, this would be a scandal that the media couldn't help but cover. Tammy Baldwin is the senator from Wisconsin. She is a lesbian. And she is in a long-term relationship, just like my buddy John is. And my buddy John and his partner, they file appropriate disclosures for his partner's job, and Tammy Baldwin and her partner do not. Tammy Baldwin is the senator from Wisconsin. She's in a swing state. Her popularity is under 50%. She's being challenged by Eric Hovde, a popular Republican in Wisconsin, and the media outside of the New York Post doesn't want to talk about Tammy Baldwin. This is from the New York Post. Baldwin co-owns a $1.3 million D.C. penthouse condo with her partner, Wall Street private wealth management advisor Maria Brisbane, but hasn't included any of their jointly owned assets on her financial disclosure reports, despite reporting the assets of her previous partner. In fact, Brisbane has never appeared on the senator's reports. In 2015, Tammy Baldwin might have objected to this arrangement. In a press conference that year introducing her Financial Services Conflict of Interest Act with the late Representative Elijah Cumming of Maryland, the two-term senator declared the American people can't afford to have government officials in the pocket of the financial industry that they are charged with overseeing. Baldwin's bill, meant to close the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington, targeted potential conflicts of interest between the financial sector and those who regulate the industry, including expanding a cooling-off period prohibiting former government employees from lobbying for 2 years. The bill was aimed at the executive branch and did not touch congressional conflicts of interest. Brisbane and Baldwin began dating 6 years before they bought their D.C. condo. Baldwin introduced this legislation 3 years before they began dating. Brisbane is the founder of Brisbane Group, whose archived website from when it was at Merrill Lynch claimed to enhance performance by investing in small biotechnology companies. Brisbane previously managed a biotechnology mutual fund at Merrill Lynch, where she was said to have an appreciation for cutting-edge research that informs her current investments in biotech companies. Brisbane is also on the Cancer Research and Treatment Fund Board of Directors, who rapidly deploy funding to the front lines of research. Senator Baldwin, and all members of Congress for that matter, should adhere to the standards of transparency that were designed to avoid actual and perceived conflicts of interest or personal benefit. The situation raises personal ethical questions and will require additional scrutiny to ensure Senator Baldwin is not taking advantage of her public office for her and her partner's financial gain, according to Caitlin Sutherland of the Americans for Public Trust. So here's the problem. Baldwin met privately with Gina Raimondo, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, to make a final pitch for Wisconsin to win the Phase 2 implementation grant as a biohealth tech hub. Her role wasn't secret. She also chairs the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee for Labor, Health, and Human Services, Education, and Related Agencies, which manages appropriations for the National Institutes of Health. In 2018, a biotech CEO thanked Baldwin for her support after the firm received an award for one of the NIH programs. The CEO donated $4,000 to Baldwin. And she's got this conflict of interest. Between 2018, the year Baldwin began dating Brisbane, and 2020, Health and Human Services and the NIH doled out 71 awards to the tune of $45 million to small businesses that are owned in part by venture capital firms, hedge funds, and or private equity firms. Baldwin and members of Congress in general are not in position to choose grant applications for the funding. They belong to the NIH, but there are well-documented problems with insider trading among members of Congress and influence on what the NIH does. Again, ask yourself if this were a Republican. Ask yourself if this were a married couple. You have a United States senator in charge of a subcommittee that oversees funding in the biotech industry for healthcare, who is in a long-term relationship with an investor and money manager involved in the biotechnology sector. They live in a shared D.C. condo that is worth a lot of money together, and the senator doesn't disclose any of this in her disclosure forms, does not disclose the investments for the partner, doesn't do any of that, and essentially hides behind the fact that they're not married. I bring up my buddy to point out that he and his partner are not married and yet do the disclosures together because though not married, they recognize they're in this long-term relationship with an appearance of could raise an appearance of impropriety and conflict of interest. And yet the senator from Wisconsin, who insists that the executive branch should have to adhere to these standards, refuses to honor the standards she herself believes others in government should do. The minimum account required to work with Tammy Baldwin's partner was $20 million, and her typical client's net worth is between $40 and $200 million, according to Forbes. That's a massive potential conflict of interest. The New York Post is the same organization that went after Hunter Biden's laptop and the rest of the media tried to ignore. The New York Post continues to break these stories the rest of the media ignores because the rest of the media is covering for the Democrats. You know they don't want Republicans to take the Senate, and you know if Tammy Baldwin were an incumbent Republican instead of an incumbent Democrat, or maybe even if Tammy Baldwin was married instead of in a long-term lesbian relationship, they would cover this sort of story. Also, you know, if she were actually married, the government rules would require her to disclose this stuff, but she's not. So you have a senator in charge of steering benefits to biotech companies that her partner potentially maybe invests in, and we don't know because they're ignoring the disclosures on the technicality of they're not married. We've seen the American media cover for Democrats for decades now. It's gotten worse. We saw the media covering for Joe Biden. The very same media now covering for Kamala Harris. Time and time again, the media says it's not really true. We're not really in the tank for them. Now, we all know it is true, but the media says they're not. They could prove us wrong by covering the story, but they don't want to cover the story because it could potentially jeopardize Tammy Baldwin's reelection. She's not a supremely popular politician in Wisconsin, and Eric Hovde's pretty popular. They're attacking Eric Hovde for supposed tax evasion, which isn't true, and yet this is a true story that they won't even cover. Republicans, the point here is this. One, we should put these issues on the radar. Two, we should remember the Democrats are held to a double standard. And three, we should speak loudly to force these things to be covered, because eventually when we speak loud enough and cover these ourselves enough, the media can't help but cover them. Whether it's the Tim Walz story about his lying about his record in the military or something like this. If you continue to beat the drum on it, eventually the media has to do it so that at least they can check the box and say they've done it. And the moment they do it, it allows the story to expand even further. But yes, this is a sitting United States senator who is in a lesbian long-term relationship, who has clear conflicts of interest and will not file the disclosure she would have to file if she's married, because she can say, well, we're not married, even though they live together and share a condo together and have been in a long-term relationship. It is an appalling double standard that the media, if they were Republicans, would expose. Media should be doing its job. Instead, we have to do it for them.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop last-minute deals now.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry. Everybody's talking about it. Billions of dollars invested, so buckle up. The problem is AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Oracle.com/Erickson. Go check them out today. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. So I don't know what's going on with the Department of Energy. You know, they had that guy who dressed up as a dog and stole women's luggage, and he wore high heels and lipstick. And, well, a recent hire at the Nuclear Security Wing of the Department of Energy has previously called for disarmament policies which reduce or eliminate nuclear weapons, arguing that advancing queer theory was essential to that agenda as well as important to America's national security. The Biden-Harris administration announced Sneha Nair has been appointed as special assistant at the National Nuclear Security Administration. Nair believes in eradicating purported white supremacy in the nuclear field, as well as queering nuclear weapons as part of a diversity, equity, and inclusion push she believes is essential for deterring threats to nuclear energy facilities in the United States. Quote, finally, queer theory informs the struggle for nuclear justice and disarmament. Queer theory helps to shift the perception of nuclear weapons as instruments for security by telling the hidden stories of displacement, illness, and trauma caused by their production and testing. What the actual hell is this? Queer theory informs the struggle for nuclear justice and disarmament. Apparently, this woman believes that instead of being bombarded by atoms with the explosion of a nuclear weapon, we should be bombarded by rainbows. Unbelievable. Would it help her if they painted rainbow flags on the nuclear missiles? Would she feel better about that? Would she feel better if we added sound effects like Slay Queen or some such? When we launch the what is queer theory for nuclear weapons? These are not serious people. And these are the people the Biden and Harris administration have put in charge of our nuclear stockpile. They want to queer theorize nuclear weapons. I don't even know that they know what that means, but she probably knew she could get a great grade in college for saying it. It's all a bunch of word salad gibberish by some idiot who's now in charge of some portion of our nuclear stockpile. May God have mercy on our souls. We are dumber for having read the sentence. Queer theory helps to shift the perception of nuclear weapons as instruments for security by telling the hidden stories of displacement, illness, and trauma caused by their production and testing. Really? Queer theory does. Queer theory does this. Remarkable. We get the government we deserve, people. That's all I'm going to say. We should deserve so much better. And yet. Okay. I got to move on. When we come back, I got to talk about the jobs numbers, the great conspiracy out there with bank collapses, with interest rates the way they are, Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets. In their report, The Secret War on Cash, you can get their report. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. You can get it by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency, too. The government is trying to monitor you and track you as you use cash. So get the Secret War on Cash report free. All you do is mention my name, Eric. When you call or text 800-289-2646, get the free report at 800-289-2646. Just mention Eric. Call or text Eric to 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. That's SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Or just give them a call, 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings, conversationalists. It's Eric Erickson. As the voice said, I'm delighted to have you. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to text the word Army, ARMY, to 33777. If you put in your first, last name, zip code, and email, we don't need your phone number. It asks for it, but we don't need it. But it's a way for us as we start expanding around the country, coming into your markets, doing live events, to be able to let you know. And also, if there's an issue before Congress and you want to be an activist in the army of activists, we'll send you the email. You can delete it or read it, and you call Congress, take action, make yourself a part of the process instead of just sitting back and yelling. But we want to be able, as we do live events around the country, to be able to keep in touch with you to let you know we're coming to your area. So text Army to 33777. Just put in first name, last name, zip code, email, and away you go. The jobs report, I told you yesterday this was going to happen. So the estimates were between the government overstated 300,000 jobs or 1 million jobs. We have the number now from the government. It is essentially 818,000 jobs. It's the largest revision in total payroll since 2009. And that 2009 number, it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics from the end of the Bush administration into the Obama administration. And now it's all the Biden administration. And of course, the reaction on the right is that was a conspiracy to make Joe Biden look good. Listen, the partisan in me wants to say yes, absolutely. The reasonable, logical person in me says, if so, they would have waited until next year to revise it, not in August in the middle of the Democratic National Convention before an election. But they do this all the time. Essentially, every August, they do a comprehensive audit of their numbers of the past year, March to March. They revise them and they release them. And usually the number's not a big escalation. This time it really is. Now, why is it big? The reason it's big, we can attribute it to the deep state bias to the Democrats. How about that? That's the easy answer. Is the Bureau of Labor Statistics bureaucrats favor Joe Biden? They wanted to make him look good, and so they've been covering the economic data for him, making the economy look better than it is, and decided to announce that actually they've been rigging it during the Democratic National Convention in the run-up to the election. My brain, the logic of the timing doesn't make sense to me if it was some partisan hackery within the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Do I actually think that there's a bias in BLS and other departments towards the Democrats? Absolutely, yeah. I don't think you could deny it. A lot of these people were Democrats. They got into government because they wanted to do good. But there's a larger issue at play here than just a rank deep state conspiracy to help Joe Biden. Because if it was just a rank deep state conspiracy to help Joe Biden, they would have waited until after the election to tell everyone they've been lying. The problem is how they collect the data to begin with. They collect the data through surveys. And just as you don't find polling accurate, this is essentially a poll. And it's not great. It's based on lots of different data metrics. Statisticians deal with it. And, they say there are lies, damn lies, in statistics. They do statistical sampling, they do surveys, but then what they do once a year is they take the actual unemployment data from the states. Part of the real reason that there's a problem here is not the federal government, but California. The way California has reported and handled its unemployment data has had a lot to do with this. The California economy is actually underperforming the rest of the nation, though Gavin Newsom would have you believe otherwise. So it's more complex than just government conspiracy. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong if you believe it's government conspiracy, because part of me honestly believes that biases within the Bureau of Labor Statistics towards the Democrats have helped them do this. But that still does raise the question of why do this before the election instead of after the election. The larger issue, though, regardless of whether or not you blame it, of course, the Democrats spin as well. Joe Biden still, even with his revision, created more jobs than Donald Trump. That's not really true, because you had a whole lot of people go out of work during COVID, and part of the job creation numbers from Joe Biden are not people going into new jobs, they're people returning to their old jobs. And that the Democrats can't be intellectually honest when they talk about it is part of the problem here, and that breeds and festers the conspiracy theories on the right. What do the numbers actually look like, though? It's the largest revision since 2019. The numbers have been revised every month, by the way. But then there's this broader revision with the quarterly census of employment and wages, where they take all of the revisions that they make month to month, and they compare them to the actual tax records on unemployment in the states. You know, every employer pays an unemployment tax. And every year they do this audit where they revise the numbers based on that. So how does this actually translate? Well, professional and business services actually were overstated the most. Turns out there are 358,000 less people in professional and business services than originally claimed. In the leisure and hospitality sector, there are 150,000 less. Manufacturing, 115,000 less. Transportation and utilities, 104,000 less. Now, interestingly enough, within the trade category, retail trade numbers, people work in retail, actually were understated. There are 129,000 more people work in retail than the government initially thought. Interestingly enough, government jobs were the least inaccurately stated. They revised up just 1,000. Turns out there are only 1,000 more people working in the government than they expected compared to retail, where there are 129,000 more people working. So how does this actually play out? One, broader distrust of government. Again, we haven't seen this level of screw up from the Bureau of Labor Statistics since 2009. Again, it's worth pointing out for those of you who say, well, that was the Obama administration. The Democrats are at it again. Yes, but those numbers went back to the Bush administration, those revisions. But where this is really going to come into play is next month, in just a few weeks, the Federal Reserve is going to analyze whether or not to lower interest rates or not. The unemployment rate in the country is rising. Now, this is one of those complexities that you have to understand. There are a couple of unemployment numbers. The one number we look at is the common unemployment number. That is, unemployment has gone up, but the reason unemployment's gone up is because people are looking for work. Now, for those of you who don't understand that, when you stop looking for work, you are no longer considered unemployed. You have no job, but this is the government we're talking about. If you're looking for a job and can't find a job, you're unemployed. If you stopped looking for a job, you're not considered unemployed. You're considered outside the workforce. You have to be inside the workforce looking for a job to be considered unemployed. One of the reasons the unemployment rate is going up is because people who were sitting on the outside are now having to go back into the workforce and find a job, and they're now considered unemployed again. That right there is a troubling sign for two reasons. One, what it's suggesting is a lot of people sat out, decided I'll live off my savings, and two, that savings is no more, and they're having to go back to work now. You want your red flag? Here's your red flag. It turns out that credit card defaults are at record levels. The delinquency rate on credit card loans is the highest it has been. We're hitting 8% in 2024. 8% credit card defaults. It's now rising faster than in the 2008 financial crisis. Should be a red flag for all of us. Not only that, Repossessions on vehicles are increasing. So repossessions on vehicles are increasing. Credit card defaults are increasing. Mortgage foreclosures are increasing. The credit cards increasing. Car repossessions increasing. We've overstated the economy by about 1 million jobs. Things are not nearly as good as they had us believe. Now, the side note here is how many of you have been lectured by the media that things are better than you know? For the last 3 years now, you haven't felt like the economy was good. You knew people who couldn't find work. You knew people who were laid off. You knew people who were struggling. You yourself were struggling. And the government and the media told you, actually, the data says it's all in your head. Turns out you were right. The government was wrong. Turns out you were right and the media was wrong. The media that now wants to lecture you on Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and their record, the media that wants to lecture you on Donald Trump and his record, the media that wants to lecture you on just how good the economy actually is, turns out the media was wrong. And the media was wrong in large part because the government itself screwed it all up. Never blame maliciousness when incompetence typically has everything to do with it. But this is where perception comes in. Because you know where the most of the job impacts were? Most of the job impacts were actually in red states. You in the red states, you were the ones who had the problem. You in the red states are the ones who have felt inflation more than the coastal elite. You in the red states are the ones who have felt the strain of jobs. You in the red states and the swing states of America in the heartland, you're the ones who have struggled. It hasn't been the coastal elite. It hasn't been the people in the Ivy League. It hasn't been the Democrats. It hasn't been the progressives. It's been the swing state, white-collar and blue-collar workers of America who have been struggling, and they've been struggling in swing states. They've been struggling around the country, and yet the media lives on the coast. The media has it pretty good, and so the media hasn't believed you. They believe the government, and now suddenly the government's coming out saying, actually, we've been wrong the whole time. This is Rick Santelli breaking the news to CNBC viewers earlier today as the numbers came out.
You know, the range of how many jobs they would take away for a variety of reasons, maybe the largest is the birth-death model for businesses, was going to be somewhere between 350,000 and 1 million. It comes in at 818,000. Now,
818,000. Now, what's the market been doing as a result of this? The markets are actually pretty flat right now. They're trying to digest it. They're thinking maybe the Fed will cut interest rates now. But the larger, bigger issue here is that the media relied on the government, and yet again, because they relied on the government, they got so much wrong. They relied on the government for everything about COVID, and they got so much of that wrong. The media lectures you that you don't know how well you have it, and the media thinks that they can tell you your own lived experience. You know, for years and years and years, the left lectured us about lived experience. And you shouldn't question people and their quote-unquote lived experience. Your lived experience the last few years has been the economy wasn't as good as it was under Donald Trump, and the media's told you, shut up, that's not true, the data says otherwise. Now they've had to revise down substantially the data. Maybe they should go back to not questioning your lived experience. The reality is this. The economy is still doing okay at the macro level. It's the micro level, the household level, where things are problematic. Rent's too high, interest rates are too high, food prices are too high, gas prices are too high, insurance, everything is too high. You have less take-home pay today because of inflation. And they say they've solved inflation. They haven't actually caused anything to go down. They've just caused the rate of growth to slow down. That means the rate of growth in costs is still going up and higher than what the Federal Reserve wants, but the Federal Reserve may have painted themselves into a box where now they got to lower interest rates, which guess what? Might spark more inflation. This is the Biden-Harris economy, and it's the one Kamala Harris wants to double down on. I want to double down on getting you to go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3, and get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms for less than $200, save $200, and start wiping out the odors in your house. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm, it generates ozone that gets into the cracks and crevices and anywhere that odors are. Odors are ions, and O3, ozone, latches onto ions and weighs them down and gets rid of them. Why? Because it's science. And the Eden Pure Thunderstorm takes advantage of that science to get rid of dirty diaper odors, smoke odors, litter box odors, wet dog odors, musty odors, frying odors, fish odors, you name it, wipes them out. I use this thing. I keep it in my travel bag. It is the size of, I hold it in my hand. It's small, size of a book. I can plug it into the wall. I can plug it in with a USB cord, and it wipes out odors. You can get 3 of them for less than $200. You're saving $200. One for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your RV, your travel bag, wherever you need it. Again, it's so small I travel with it. You can plug it up with a USB cord. You can plug it into the wall. EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, no space, ERICK, the number 3, no space. EdenPureDeals.com. Get the Eden Pure Thunderstorm and wipe out bad odors. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, phone lines are open. Amy Klobuchar had an event at the Democratic convention where she said, quote, I decided instead of the MAGA movement, we're going to start the MAMA movement. That is, Make America, Michigan, and Minnesota again. Will we have to eat our salads with hair combs if we do this, Amy Klobuchar? Will we be forced to use combs to eat our salads? Also, Michigan and Minnesota are losing population. They're actually declining in the Electoral College because of the far left policies. People are fleeing those states, and yet this is what she wants to make America, Michigan, and Minnesota again. No, I don't want Georgia to become Minnesota. Nope, I don't want Minnesota. Don't want it. I don't want Texas to become like California. Why is it that the left in this country wants to impose their states on everyone else? They want us to become like them as opposed to recognizing our individual uniqueness. I mean, let's be honest here. We all make jokes about Mississippi and Alabama. Even people in Mississippi and Alabama make jokes about Mississippi and Alabama. I know because I got a lot of friends who live in both. But I like the distinctiveness of the states. And God forbid we all wind up as one unified, homogenous group like the Minnesotans or the Michiganders or the Californians. Yet that's the message time and time again. Gavin Newsom wants to make America great again by making it like California as opposed to letting our individual uniqueness stand on its own. No, thank you, please. And also, Mama, come on, really? That's really what it was. She wanted to riff on MAGA with Mama, and that's how she came up with it is, oh, Mama, Michigan and Minnesota, that will work. Make America, Michigan, and Minnesota again. Actually, America existed before they did, so maybe we should go back to that.